As a black nerd growing up, it was pretty late getting a lot of perspectives of life through different media forms. I was introduced to rap and hip hop thanks to my parents, as well as my love for video games. One of my parents' favorite artists that I rock with was Lupe Fiasco, famously featured on Kanye West's Touch the Sky.
Take 'em back to the club.
See, Lupe is one smart nigga. He usually is talking about political topics years before the mainstream media even picks up on it. Famously, him speaking up about Gaza on the regular. Well, as a kid, I was not paying attention to all that. I was paying attention to Mario and Sonic beating each other up while Dream Race was playing in the background. When I wasn't being a nerd about playing video games, I was being a nerd watching people play video games. After some snooping around on YouTube, I discovered Sugar Conroy's Mother 3 Let's Play when I was introduced to Peak. This game definitely changed my brain chemistry and caused me to start my life journey into wokeness. However, my wokeness didn't fully come to form until the Orange Man became dictator, but we'll definitely get into that in a little bit. For now, I want to just literally yap about these topics, just to make connections about these different subjects to hopefully see how things really are not too different when it comes to media, and is definitely more connected than people often realize. If the name Lupe Fiasco sounds familiar, but it's still not fully ringing that bell, he's the guy who's made songs such as Superstar,
If you are what you say you are, a superstar.
The Show Goes On,
Already the show goes on.
and Kick Push.
So we kick, push, kick, push, kick, push, kick, push, coast.
You could not escape these songs in the late 2000s. Kick Push comes from his debut album, Lupe Fiasco's Food and Liquor, released in 2006. On that album, Lupe was not shy from speaking his mind on the horrors of living in America as a black man and learning about America's histories like Hurt Me Soul, where he talks about growing up and being a hypocrite on how rap music treats women, but also loving the music at the same time, for example. American Terrorist is where he recontextualizes the American view of Muslims being scapegoated as terrorists when America has and continues to engage in the most horrific, immoral atrocities that the world has ever seen. The name American Terrorist alone goes to show how Lupe is able to recognize his environment years before what we now know for certain about America's time in the Middle East. Now, I can nerd out about this album all day, and I 1000% will in other videos, but the song that I want to talk about today is called The Instrumental, which was also featured on Lupe Fiasco's Food and Liquor. Now, the thing I like about Lupe is his versatility and unique song making, and this song is definitely a good example of that. See, this song was produced by Mike Shinoda, founder of Linkin Park. I love some Linkin Park. I know you love some Linkin Park. Who doesn't love them some Linkin Park? They were dominating pop culture at the time in the early 2000s and was honestly deserving of all the fame. Shoutouts to Num/Encore, united the races for real. Lupe, with Kick Push at the time being such a hit, was able to meet Mike at an MTV after party where they made the song, which was originally called Never Lies. This song featured Jonah Matrenga, who was messing with Fort Minor at the time. Jonah was scooped up from Mike from a song he wrote called Pollyanna. Together, they all finally released the song we now know as The Instrumental. The Instrumental is on the surface a very simplistic song that follows the traditional chorus, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus pattern that most rap songs have with the obvious Linkin Park punk style.
Watches the people in the boxes. Everything he sees, he absorbs and adopts it. He mimics and he mocks it.
It definitely gives off the vibe that it was a potential contender to be a radio type song, considering its very catchy chorus sung by Jonah. The Genius description of this song reads, Fiasco talks about America's youth obsession with electronic media, especially television, and the effects this addiction causes, which relates to America's culture at the time being introduced to big technological advancements such as the iPhone, YouTube, and the big rise of TV. Things like Disney Channel and Nick, with them catering to tweens with shows like Zoe 101 and Drake and Josh, iCarly, things like that. Reality TV also being mainstream at the time, which was still getting its footing. Now, let's look verse by verse to see what Lupe has to say about this topic. This song starts off with the line, "And he never lied," which lets us know the theme of the whole video, truth in a false reality. It then goes into Lupe's first verse, which depicts this guy and this box. This guy, he sits and watches the box. Now, this box is very obviously a metaphor for TV, but it can definitely be a fill-in for technology as a whole, as TV nowadays is outdated and your iPhone can literally do anything it wants to. This guy loves this damn box. Well, He actually hates it. He hates it so much he makes fun of this damn thing. But he spends so much time with this box where he ends up being a mirror in everything he consumes. He doesn't want to stop either because it has answers on how to even stop using this box. Now, being exposed to TV and the internet, a person is exposed to thousands and thousands of people's other opinions. Whatever you see on the internet is being broadcasted to millions of others in different parts of the world. People got some strong voices on things they might hate or not even care about. People love using their voice. Now, what happens when you take this voice away? That question is exactly what the song explores, as Lupe explains in the pre-chorus, as the guy becomes so attached to the box that the only way to detach from the box is something he chose to actively forget. But as the pre-chorus ends, Lupe tells us about these doctors who took away his voice. Now, these doctors are representative of the public. This guy's voice, self-identity. When we recontextualize the song with this in mind, we see the story of someone being so obsessive with the internet that they lose their identity on the very thing they hate. Even when people do realize they are lacking in their self-identity, they often look for an answer in the exact same damn thing that is causing the issue in the first place. It's one big feedback loop. A self-fulfilling prophecy of sorts. Lupe himself says, the actual song, the instrumental, is a take on two individuals in similar objective circumstances, but very dissimilar subject frames of mind. One of immense admiration and the other intense abhorrence, but the end result being both individuals rationally addicted to the irrational circumstances that they find themselves in. The television and the radio have been deconstructed to simple boxes, each sending endless streams of information, both useless and useful. The first individual constantly observes the box, under the faint pretext that he will observe information that will instruct on how to discontinue his obsession with the box. He is caught in a feedback loop, also a principle of marketing, which has an inherent mechanism that infinitely justifies its own existence to the observer by playing on his or her ignorance, which speaks on the nature of the observer, which speaks on the nature of the observer's limited pre-existing circumstances and conditions before their encounters with the box, as well as the observer's gullibility, natured or nurtured. The incessant need for this information that will somehow bring about the observer's liberation reactively makes him a slave. A self-fulfilling and self-similar element that reflects the paradoxes of life, i.e. a slave to the idea and act of being liberated from one's own slavery. The chains and lock represent the strong connectivity and attachment to the box, but can also be interpreted from a couple of perspectives. My favorite is that they are bonds of love, even though the tethering was a product of hatred. Love, because of the prerequisite of strong connectivity that is in the definition and description of the act and idea of being in love. The paradox being in that it was all done out of hatred. This is a very what is on the surface based interpretation. The doctors are us in the sense that they are observers, but they are also within their observation they are distorting and affecting what they are observing with their very presence. See theory of relativity, quantum mechanics, etc. The removal of the voice is a very deliberate act and speaks to the act and idea of interpretation itself. The voice of what is being observed have been silenced and replaced with the voice of the interpreter, who goes on to redefine the motive and intentions of the observed piece based on their own knowledge and experiences. The world is merely an instrument, where the vocals are being provided by observers who critique and associate value, thus completing the score. Lupe's description and analysis of his own song provides interesting insight on some major points and themes that I find interesting. The point I want to focus on is the topic of a slave to the idea, an act of being liberated from one's own slavery. You are your own worst enemy. What possessed this person to think they will find answers in the very thing enslaving them? Now, obviously, this can be translated to how technology is really such a big influence on people's lives, but more interesting, it's not the actual thing itself. It's people's worldview and relationship with the object. There are people out there with genuine and healthy relationships with their devices, but those with dysfunctional relationship with it, they suffer the most and is very apparent. In both verses of the song, even though you have one person who despises the box and one person who is possibly obsessive with the box, they both fall victim to the hypnotizing nature of what the box provides. And Lupe even starts to comment on what happens when you fall into the trap of the box. You start to lose your self-identity. You no longer become what your spirit wants you to be. There's a dissonance that happens. You can't tell me who you are. You are what you consume, and you consume everything. And that is not healthy for a human brain to comprehend. Arriving at the end goal before having the necessary tools to actually substantiate those goals causes self-destruction. If the brain does not have a routine way of achieving the results it desires, the brain takes shortcuts. Those shortcuts leave out the necessary steps, and that is exactly what Lupe describes. Those scars people get from living their life, they hide them instead of using them to power through their own challenges. They get insecure, and rightfully so. There's nothing wrong with feeling insecure of your emotions, but then there's no follow through after. Since there is no continuation in the saga, you can't tell the whole story. You can't take it back to the start. This is apparent in the modern age of social media when it comes to Instagram and even Twitch. It's no secret that Instagram is plagued by the idea of fakeness, but I argue that Twitch is becoming filled by those same ideals. As live streaming has become more popular, you have the big rise in internet celebrities such as Kai Cenat, the entirety of OTV, Ludwig, Hassan, and other streamers in that circle. A big part of their popularity and success is their production value that gets put into their content. Twitch started out as a way to broadcast people's video game playthroughs. It has transformed massively as live feed of people's lives as just chatting has taken over the platform. It has become the new reality TV, as popular streamers are putting on the performance for their audience. Putting people's toxic parasocial attitudes towards their favorite creators aside, their goal is to sell you a product, and their product is the image. The idea of living this luxurious lifestyle that gives the audience a sense of community with the ability to chat and interact in real time, often getting locked away behind financial paywalls through sub-only chats, donations being read on stream, and more attention to those who give more subs. This gives way to very unhealthy relationships and provides a lot of real danger and harm to those who do live stream, considering those people who can get raided and swatted as a joke. Now, something interesting of note is that there actually is a music video that never took off of this song. You can find it uploaded on YouTube by other users if you want to go watch it, but as far as I know, it was never released officially. This cube, which reminds me of how the Tesseract is in the Avengers films, being very apparent in its power by those around it are taking safety precautions and quarantining themselves. You have scientists and government officials in this underground dank area trying to study and understand this box with obvious low regard for their patients. As someone who works in the medical field, I know too well that healthcare in America absolutely sucks. With the addition to the extremely high insurance premiums and costs, you have the government being extremely slow and inefficient at processing forms, the underpayment of all their employees, a general lack of training, and underemployment in the field in general. The whole program is just a mess thanks to the American healthcare system and its focus on profits thanks to capitalism. As the video progresses, you see lyrics from the song on the walls to really drill in that Joker insane vibe in the box that has going on, and that's really the bulk of the video. The video was actually supposed to end with some kids opening presents, which would be revealed that they would be getting the so-called box, but it was never filmed due to unknown reasons. What we do know, however, is what the main actor behind the video says in 2017, where he posts about his experience in the publishing platform Medium. He writes, "I played a media addict. Addicted to the box, aka TV. If you watch it now, it's basically about how we all look while we're staring at our smartphones." The song was ahead of its time. He was told that the project was shelved due to Atlantic not wanting to pay to promote for another single. Months later, he ran into Fiasco at the cinema and introduced himself as the actor in the music video. Now, although we didn't get the music video and the overall success of the song in general, what we did get is a pretty cool song about not the dangers of technology specifically, but the relationships we have towards the current piece of technology, and also still pretty poppy enough to listen to in the car. Now, for my knowers out there, Mother 3, also released in 2006, ties in perfectly into this theme that Lupe has got going on. In Mother 3, you play as Lucas, who has recently lost his mother. Ironic, huh? On this island called Nowhere. On this island, he lives in Tasmilli Village, where it resembles a communist society where there is no money or government. There's just a group of people living together in a town helping each other out. You still have your roles such as an innkeeper, a fireman, a shopkeeper, and you still have services such as a jail and a church, but there's no concept of money, which is low-key peak society, but I digress. In Tasmilli Village, there are strange beasts called chimeras, which get released into the wild by these pigmen in masks led by the main villain of the game, Porky. We found out that these pigmen in masks are working together with this guy named Facade, who has kidnapped this monkey named Salsa. Together, they go into town with a plan. The plan? Introduce capitalism. How do you do that? By convincing people that money is the most valuable thing on the planet through the fear of such strange beasts taking everything you own and praising the hard work must be compensated. Facade ends up giving people happy boxes to those people who want them. threatening those who don't to have misfortune come their way. 3 years go by and you see the development of the town become extreme due to the introduction of money in the village. Finally, you get to see what these happy boxes really are. While they look like TV screens, creator Toy insists that this is not what they are, as there are actual TVs that exist you see later on in the game. To me, honestly, I think they're just supposed to represent exactly what we've been discussing, technology in general. One character, Abby, states that they're excited to have their happy cooling box and their happy massage chairs. So, happy boxes are just that, boxes that make you happy. A very abstract concept because at the end of the day, happy boxes can really be anything. After receiving these happy boxes, citizens in Tasmilly have gone from very friendly to very cynical. For example, one villager, Abbott, says, "Oh Lucas, are you so jealous of my happiness that you've come to see for yourself?" Happiness has become a commodity, something to possess over others, and not everyone can have it. Some people who do have these boxes seem to be hypnotized by it, unaware to those around them. We come to find out those who do not have those boxes have their houses struck by lightning. And not by accident either, as these pigmen have constructed a lightning tower in order to rain lightning like Thor onto those who refuse to conform. And the eventual endgame for those pigmen? To move everyone into New Pork City, an obvious parody of New York City. In this city, it's a capitalist dream with entertainment galore to brainwash its citizens to be ruled over until the end of time. It's honestly a very depressing game, as you find out later on in New Pork City that the original villagers of Tasmilly had their memory erased after landing on the island after completely destroying the Earth's environment, presumably due to a world war of sorts. Yikes. Now, I've yapped about this game and this song for quite a while. What's my point? Grr, technology bad and humanity is doomed? Nah. Before I can talk about the substance that this game brings, I have to talk about the orange elephant in the room. Let's go into my next topic and try to tie this all together. Everyone's least favorite man, Donald J. Trump. Donald Trump is obviously on everyone's nightmare blunt rotation, except if you're weird or contrarian, I guess. But when he was elected back in 2016, it definitely had a big effect on the way the world views politics. I mean, how could it not? Him and his MAGA crowd were loud and proud about how xenophobic, sexist, and racist they are. That didn't stop us from re-electing him in 2024, where he still sits as our president as of the time of making this video. And this time around, he's putting his Project 2025 plan into full effect. Today, we see this with the National Guard deployments, ICE raids, and rescinding of any sort of medical or healthcare, and just an overall depression veil of underfunded social services of any sorts. In order to get America to this point, Trump's MAGA crowd were fed what I like to call a false sense of common sense. Like, how else would you believe that immigrants are the problem and fascism is the answer? Through the internet, of course. Remember Twitter and how Elon Musk ruined it by renaming it to X and then increasing bots on the website tenfold so he can promote and campaign Trump? Yeah, the audience who still actively uses X are the kids at the end of the instrumental music video, being fed AI word slop to twist the national narrative to whatever story serves the capitalist class. It's a sort of brain rot mind-numbingness comfort that people can engage in. Like, the whole point of TikTok was to keep scrolling and you eventually find a video you are interested in. And with technology getting better and better by the minute, it's bound to be repeated. And you know what capitalism loves? Replication without added effort. You have sites like YouTube and Instagram adopting the short form content that TikTok introduced that is pretty much TikTok 2.0. It becomes easier to spread information with platforms that operate pretty much the same. With an easier time to spread information, it becomes easier to engage in fascism. And yes, we are heading towards a fascist nation. So where does that leave us? Well, I want to move away from the depressing America ending its whole hardcore fascist era and talk more about how Mother 3 exactly deals with the issues we are facing today. From the beginning of the game, you see how the simple lifestyle of this world slowly descends into this hyper-industrialization, and the citizens become a lot more selfish with the resources as money gets introduced, as each person has witnessed terrible tragedies fall upon their community. Each citizen personalizes their pain and takes it upon themselves to go find their own happiness, which obviously sold by those in power in the form of facade. The logo of this game starts off with this hybrid of metallic chrome substances infused with wooden parts, representing the two environments kind of clashing between each other, fighting for power. By the end of the game, however, the logo transforms to a purely wooden design, representing the idea of capitalism toppling over, as in the end of the game, the world becomes reset due to a magical dragon. Yes, wacky ass game, I know. But it's not like you can win against the system in real life. As far as I know, there is no sleeping magical dragon underneath the earth that can resend humanity to reverse the effects of capitalism and colonization. It's a process, it's an experience. The toll of capitalism has already taken its effect on humanity. Otoi, the creator of Mother 3, has to say, nowadays, people are always looking for consistency. Take for example, a place lined up with nothing but bonsai trees. People would find it strange if there were suddenly a rose among them. But this Mother 3 world of mine, including its logo, is the essence of inconsistency. If a child were to see Mickey Mouse in Disneyland and tell me, there's no such thing as mice that big, I'd want to tell that child, of course there is, it's right there. Otoi talks about how consistency and stability is something that is ingrained in human nature. Pattern recognition is what made humans be able to thrive, but that doesn't mean that inconsistency is a bad thing. What happened to the citizens of Tasmilli was a tragedy for sure, but it was the pain of the transformation of the world that allowed for a better world to be built. The exploration of technology hadn't plagued Tasmilli at that point, or at least the citizens didn't know at the time. It was an underlying symptom that the population was not aware of. Otoi goes on to say, right, I feel like these are things that are modern times, these feelings of uneasiness and discomfort, but I still understand that they make up the world I'm in. The logo is a symbol of that, and Porky is a symbol of humankind. So from the very beginning, I wanted to incorporate these horribly unpleasant things into the logo. Porky can be anyone, and can come from anywhere. Right now, we have a Porky in the making in the White House. One of the first thoughts I had when Trump was elected back in 2024 was that this is what America really wanted. And honestly, what America deserved at the time. Kamala was never going to be the savior we needed.
Let me ask you this question, very broadly speaking here.
Sure.
Do you believe that transgender Americans should have access to gender-affirming care in this country?
I believe we should follow the law.
And Trump is going to be the Porky that really shakes up the fundamental problems that the world faces, at least to a broader audience. But even though it feels like the end of the world, trust me, it really does feel like it. There's always going to be the light at the end of the tunnel, even if it takes us crawling with our bare hands to a better future. There is pain, but at the end of the pain, there's transformation. It is important to continue giving back into the community in whatever way you can. I love the internet as much as anyone else. Hell, I grew up on it, but honestly, touching grass is pretty nice too. At the end of the day, I do think that technology can benefit us tremendously. It allows us for so much creativity beyond what we can ever imagine, but at the same time, it can also bring us our downfall. What I see a lot online is a lot of black and white thinking, which I disagree with heavily. Everything requires nuance, and nuance means that there's endless amounts of questions you can ask to better oneself.